Okay, so welcome again. This is hormone balance and how hormones affect so much of our lives, also our weight. And we're going to be talking today about exactly those things, why hormones are so important. So welcome very much. Great to have you here. My name's Dr. Susan Plank. I have the Normal Wellness Center, and I'm just thrilled that you're here to join us today in this webinar about hormones. So initially, the stress response, I like to share with folks the example of, hey, if you and I were together and I said, come on, hop in the car, let's go for a drive, grab something to eat. And so, you don't know a thing, you hop in the car, you put on your seatbelt. Next thing you know, I hit the accelerator, I go peeling out of the parking lot, driving like a Lulu, speeding and going through stop signs and everything else. Your heart rate's going to be pounding. Your blood vessels are going to be constricting. You can't breathe very deeply. It's going to be these really short breaths. You're going to do what my grandmother used to do, is try to hold on or protect yourself from the dashboard. You're going to be doing all these things. That's your stress response. It's innate. It's whenever you're threatened, your survival. This is your innate stress response, and all these mechanisms are happening automatically. Now, if I make it to a red light and I put on the brakes and I stop at the red light, then the light turns green and I just take off nice and slowly. Everything is going to sort of come back to normal. Your heart rate's going to slow down. Your breathing's going to return to normal. So that initial very frenetic response, that's when cortisol, which is a stress hormone of our adrenal glands, it's spiking, it's taking off. So we get this really very anxious, uptight feeling. And then when I stopped at the stop sign or the red light and I start driving and obeying traffic signals and the speed limit, and you're able to start to relax again if you are, but when you are, that's a hormone, DHEA, bringing our stress response back under control. So these are the stress hormones. They are they work sort of automatically without us thinking about them, but it's a perceived danger. It's a perceived threat to us. And so they are adrenal stress hormones. And you can see they're little like pyramids, little triangles that sit right on top of each kidney. And they release these hormones, DHEA and cortisol. These are also controlled by neurotransmitters in the brain. So what I want you to realize is hormones generally in the body are just ways that our body, one gland or one organ or one group of cells can talk to another gland, another organ, or another group of cells. So this one over here is going to release hormones, and it's going to travel through the bloodstream and get over to these organ cells, glands, and going to tell them what to do. So hormones are just sort of types of messengers, like sending an email, right? You have no idea what happens in between, but your friend got the email. Neurotransmitters are very similar to hormones, but they're what's going on in the brain. So they control the brain function and mood, and whether you're anxious, whether you're depressed, sleep habits, those types of things. But neurotransmitters also have a secondary response to actually activating some of these stress response and these stress hormones of the adrenal glands. So epinephrine and norepinephrine, if I use that example again of sort of speeding with you, my unwitting and unknowing passenger, and speeding down the road, and you're not too thrilled about it, and you're fearful for your life, and you're highly anxious, that is going to be in the brain, release of epinephrine and norepinephrine. Another example of what you can do, think of if you're in your house and you're sitting there watching TV or just relaxing, and somebody opens a door and throws in, you know, a raccoon or some wild animal, that animal is going to be probably more freaked out than you are. But what's it going to do? It's going to try to back into a corner. It's going to try to get away from you, and it's also looking for a way out. If you try to approach it, or you're going to try to catch it, what's going to happen? That animal is going to come at you, clawing, biting. It is in survival mode, fight or flight. This is the same mechanism that's happening to us, but it should be switched on and it should be switched off. And what we're seeing is stresses like what we've been going through with the pandemic, where it got switched on, but it didn't get switched off. And so now, as we're trying to return to normal, you know, that normal isn't normal, because folks still don't know, am I supposed to be wearing masks? I don't know if I want to wear a mask. I don't know if I believe in the vaccine. I think it's a big experiment. I'm all in on the vaccine. Folks are sort of all over the place, and yet you still want to be safe. So what is happening is a stress response. This epinephrine and norepinephrine just keeps firing and causing that cortisol to keep being produced. There's very little ability to actually have these things relax. And this is one of the things that I've been most concerned about through the course of over more than a year now, is the effects that all these things are having on our health, having on our mental well-being, having on our bodies, by interrupting and sort of super firing in our brain and then affecting our hormones. So again, if nothing else, keep in mind that these should be like a switch. They get turned on, they have a function to keep us safe, get us away from danger, and then it should be turned back off again, and then we get into a relaxed state. But that's what I'm saying, that switch is more constantly on. It's more firing than actually turned off. So epinephrine and norepinephrine is more anxiety, worry, concern, and dopamine and serotonin are more relaxation, and they are released for sleep. So again, it's not necessarily good versus evil in these neurotransmitters or in the stress response. It's not some are bad and some are good. It's that they should work synergistically. Some cause an increase, some cause a decrease. Some cause vasoconstriction, some cause vasodilation. So they're always sort of working in tandem back and forth. But when we're under stressful situations, it tends to sort of ramp up and not get turned off or not get calmed back down very easily. We can also see this happen with patterns of stressful periods. The loss of a dear loved one, if that person is sick ahead of time, and the caregiving process, that is where it's life or death, that you're trying to take care of someone, and your neurotransmitters, your stress hormones are on, even though that illness might not be happening to you. You're doing the best you can to help that person, whether it's a parent or a spouse or a child or anyone else. And in fact, if you are ill yourself, these things are going to be firing away and stay triggered. So these are really how the stress levels are impacted between the neurotransmitters and the cortisol and the DHEA produced in the adrenal glands that really truly are the stress hormone. That's where they're produced. So we want to look at the stresses we have in our lives. If work is stressful, or maybe lack of work, maybe you got laid off, maybe you lost your job. You know, if a relationship is stressful, it's hard to really stop and look at our relationships in a way to say, hey, this might not be the best thing for me. I need to take a couple of steps back. But in all honesty, it's one of those ones, it's probably the best thing you can do for yourself, at least for the short term, temporarily, until you can see, can you truly be around that individual or family member or something else, or is it just impacting your health and causing too much stress? The other importance of those neurotransmitters and the adrenal hormones is they are precursors for our sex hormones. So if we're stressed out and our stress hormones are really amped up, or else they drop adrenal fatigue where they're really wiped out and fatigued, this is where sex hormones start to really get imbalanced. So the production of sex hormones is not going to be easy if we're sort of firing on all guns there for the adrenal hormones to be made. And if we let ourselves get too stressed out and then we get really very fatigued, again, we're not going to be able to make easily and efficiently our stress hormones. So estrogen is a dominant hormone in women. I will tell you though, men or women, we have the same pathways, the exact same hormonal pathways. It's just that men pull more testosterone. Testosterone ultimately is converted to estrogen, but men, it'll stay higher quantity of testosterone, where women still have some testosterone, but they have a higher quantity of estrogen. So estrogen can be very protective for the body, bone health, and digestive function, and good for our immune system. And unfortunately, it seems to be that a lot of docs aren't necessarily familiar with the protective benefits of estrogen throughout life. And so they don't necessarily test for, nor are they concerned about the symptoms of a woman earlier in life, PMS, polycystic ovary syndrome, weight gain, bloating, especially around a menstrual cycle, perimenopause, and then hot flashes and menopausal symptoms. These are all primarily due to hormonal imbalances. And a lot of times they can be so severe that the woman is just so thankful to go into menopause that hey, I don't have to deal with the monthly cycle anymore. I don't care about my hormones. And so, I just don't have to deal with that and I'm good. But the reality of it is you're not good, because now your bone health, osteoporosis, osteopenia can be affected. Your immune system can be affected. So it's a reflection of earlier in life that cycle is really for reproduction, for fertility. And so a woman chalks it up to, well, that cycle was just sort of horrendous, and I'm done with that, so I don't have to worry about hormones anymore. And again, that can't be further from the truth. Some women are really having issues with fertility and their menstrual cycle, and causing all types of severe symptoms. Those symptoms don't just go away because you go through perimenopause and into menopause. Those imbalances are still there. You might not have the monthly symptoms, but the hormones are still imbalanced. And so that is a big part of what I want women to understand. Now, guys, for testosterone, for whatever reason, and maybe it's the sexual performance thing. It's guys are much more, geared maybe that way. I don't want to speak for guys, but the reality of it is, obviously, we hear more about men as they age and worried about their low T, right? Their low testosterone. And so this is a big component of, hey, we want guys to have a good quality of life, which we do. And so we're worried about them having low T. And for ladies, I'd like to question you and say, why is it important for men And why is there this big preponderance about low T, but why is estrogen imbalance not as important to you? Because it's going to affect the same biochemistry. It's the same thing, but it's really unfortunate that there's a big disconnect. And I think it's all started through the medical profession. But as important as testosterone is for men throughout life, balanced testosterone and estrogen for women throughout life is even more so of importance, because women tend to have some type of menstrual issue earlier in life. So again, for each one of these hormones, those adrenal stress hormones, specifically DHEA, is a precursor. So it gets converted into testosterone. Testosterone then has enzymes, aromatase works on it and gets converted into estrogen. So the causes of hormonal balances, we have actually quite a few causes. They can be inactivity, they can be sleep disorders, they can be the food we're eating, dehydration, things in like plastic bottles, plasticizers, obesogens, carrying around too much weight. So we want to look at the signs and the symptoms and be able to figure out then how best to correct for these hormonal imbalances. And so we're going to see that the signs and symptoms are sort of similar for men and women: a fatigue, a tiredness, just sort of an apathy. Guys are going to notice it much more because of sexual function. They're going to notice, hey, something's not right here. They're also going to notice if they're physically weaker. Hey, I'm doing all this yard work. I used to do it. I've been doing it for 30 years. And now I feel weak as can be. I don't have the endurance. I can't make it through the day. I can't do all the work I used to do. Where again, that's sort of a role, right? The way relationships are set up. And for women, we might not have that physical, hey, we're going out lifting these things. So again, this is why I say it's for women, it's almost more important than men, because for men, they realize it. Men tend to be more physical. Women tend to not be more physical. So when they're losing the muscle mass, they don't notice it. When they're losing the bone strength, they don't notice it. And over that same amount of time, the weight is coming on and the weight's not leaving. So we really want to pay attention to sort of belly fat, enlargement of breast tissue. Men, you can get the same type of thing, but usually before that happens, we're going to see emotionally just sort of unmotivated, apathy, just don't care, fatigued, hard to get motivated for anything. And we want to take a look at these things. Please keep in mind that all hormones, but specifically the stress hormones, are going to decrease with age. So they're naturally going to decrease. And then you couple that with andropause, which is men, losing testosterone, or a woman through menopause, those hormones will really get pulled down. So again, we're not looking to take, a 60, 70, 80-year-old person and have them have reproductive hormone levels. We're trying to have where they don't just keep decreasing, and now they're at risk of falling and breaking bones and losing their independence. So the earlier we recognize it and the earlier we pull it back into normal, the better off overall everything really is. Food does matter. Your diet does matter. You have to realize that on all the cells that these hormones are trying to go to, there are receptors. We have to be able to get enough hormone there that a receptor is going to allow it into the cell through the cell membrane. So a diet of junk food, and like I said, even things microwaved and microwaved in plastic, and just a lot of fillers and additives and food colorings and chemicals and these other things, they do junk up the cell membrane. And when that happens, it's not just hormones that can't get in there, but fluid can't get in there. So water can't get in there. So the person's usually chronically dehydrated. So we're going to see more headaches, joint pains, aches and pains, arthritis, that type of thing. And then we're not going to be able to see the food necessary to get in there. So we're going to see things like an increased insulin level, insulin resistance, start to gain weight, even to the point of obesity. So we want to look at the diet, because the diet and the quality of the fluids and water are what is the initial step of making a healthy cell membrane. So hormone balancing diet, yeah, we're going to get as natural as possible, right? I'd really want to start with a detox if we do, and usually I do some type of testing to see what the hormone levels are. If we're getting pockets of too high of a testosterone, too high of an estrogen, we want to pull those hormones out. We want to flush sort of out those pathways. And then we want to make sure that what we're doing is really cleaning up the diet at the same time. So again, we're making those cell membranes where the receptors are and the hormones have to bind and go through that cell membrane. We want those to be healthy cell membranes. Otherwise, it's just going to be sort of bouncing off, and we're not going to get the desired response. So healthy fats, very, very important. Avocado is one of the most important foods that you can go to be plant-based and have those healthy fats. Fish oils are another one, the fatty fishes, those types of things. We want to keep it lean. We want to keep it healthy, okay? Probiotics are very good because the mechanism for passing these hormones through the body. So I want you to realize that hormones aren't just produced and then recycled over and over and they just stay in the body. They have a life cycle like everything else. So it's going to be conversion from mother hormone pregnenolone or progesterone or DHEA, converts into testosterone, which converts into estrogen, and we want those hormones flushed out. And that typically happens through the colon, through the digestive system. So it's very important that we keep things moving. The more someone suffers and struggles with constipation, the more we're going to have a buildup of hormones and other sort of conjugated, used up things that should be flushed out of the body. And again, that's going to affect those cell membranes. Everything should keep going on the process. Everything should keep going along the pathway. So just like the probiotics are important, the digestive enzymes, again, is so important to keep everything moving and to keep a healthy system. This is the primary way that we get rid of hormones, and so we need to do it in a way that looks at the body as a whole. So not only do we want to clean up the diet, we want to make sure we have adequate levels of hormones. We want to make sure stress isn't too much. We need to look at relaxation techniques, or prayer, meditation, but also too, the liver will make hormones active and inactive, and then they're also going to be flushed out through the digestive system. So I am a fan of using more supplements. I can tell you through the years, I've gotten sort of known for working with hormones and balancing hormones. And so the clients I have that have come from endocrinologists or folks that are giving them, say, a steroid injection, that is a lot of hormone. Even birth control pills, that's a lot of hormone that's not natural. And those, for any length of time, are going to have an effect on a woman's body or a men's testosterone level. So again, we need to look at the reason things are imbalanced. And what happens typically for men is if they get, say, hey, you have low testosterone, they go to somebody and they get an injection of testosterone. The first month they might feel fantastic. They just feel great. Like, the Hercules, they can tackle the world, right? Carry the world on their shoulders. But that second and third months when they're going, all of a sudden, that pathway that was not functional in the first place of why they couldn't make and get rid of testosterone is now really bombarded and overloaded by these injections of testosterone. And now we have the digestive system upset. We have the liver sort of flaring, and the body will just turn that testosterone, like I said, into estrogen. So then we start to see guys with belly weight, thighs getting larger. They can actually develop breast tissue. They can become more emotional. So we really want to look at that is guys with testosterone, and women, if they have higher testosterone, they're going to become more aggressive. They might have more body or facial hair than normal. So we want to look at some of these things we can pick up on the sign or the symptom of what's going on when we have these imbalances. But definitely, I would like to do it as naturally as possible and do it with nice, natural, healthy supplements. So I hope you enjoyed this. I have lots of references, and I'm always happy to speak with you. So please reach out to me. I'd love to get on a call with you, see what's going on, see how I can help you out. It's a free call, and so please just contact us, and we can get you scheduled. And I'd love to find out what's going on. I appreciate your concern. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and take care. All right. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.